The question of retooling our industrial infrastructure is a very large one. I mean, really what we're talking about taking on here, and it should have happened 50 to 100 years ago, is a retooling of the entire operating system, if you want to look at it that way, of planet Earth. Because it's all now based on our addiction to oil and gas and coal and nuclear power. That transition isn't going to be done by waving a magic wand. It's not going to happen overnight. I think it can be done in 15 to 20 years, which in terms of rollover. But remember, in terms of having a technology from its inception to its widespread application, today is much faster than it was 20 or 30 or 40 years ago with communication and the internet and all of that. Look at cell phones, look at computers. I mean, all of these things have a way. So we think that, getting these systems developed can happen fairly quickly. We have people on our team who can arrange to have a manufacturing facility from scratch stood up within a year. That could be running on these new energy systems themselves, so they're non-polluting, that could then be cranking these systems out by the hundreds of thousands or millions. Of course there's going to have to be some really large funding support to move things into that level that quickly, but we know that can be done. But you first have to get to this robust demonstrator, and then there'll be the level of support to do that. I think the other thing to remember here, and this is something that we haven't touched on, is that, and it's implicit in this whole discussion, is that right now, our entire way of living on the planet is a very heavy footprint. It's a huge burden on the Earth. And the reason for it is because of the type of energy systems we have. I remember as a high school student being with Archibald MacLeish, and he was saying at that time, in the 70s, early 70s, that the technologies already existed to scrub all of our smokestacks and manufacturing to zero effluent, zero pollution. But it took so much energy to do that, and energy itself created so much pollution, it was so costly, that you got to this point of diminishing return very quickly. But what happens when you have free energy, literally, because the energy is coming from the environmental magnetic flux field, and it's non-polluting energy, there's no pollution associated with these systems, well then all the manufacturing can be zero impact in terms of clean. There can be 100% recycling, because recycling is an energy intensive process. There can be desalination of water, which, I mean, there are pipelines for gasoline that run thousands of miles across continents, so even the desert shall bloom, to quote a biblical concept. There's no shortage of water on the Earth, there's a shortage of potable, fresh water, but the oceans are 2/3 covering the Earth. And so the air itself has enormous moisture in it, and there are people that we're working with who've developed very efficient systems for squeezing moisture out of the air to create potable water or irrigation water, but those take electricity. But if your electrical needs are met from these systems, suddenly you can visualize a planet completely transformed and liberated from the shackles of the economic slavery of the current energy and manufacturing system that requires more than 2/3 of the world living in poverty. And I think that is a big part of the vision of what the OrionProject.org wants to share with the public, is that this isn't a pipe dream. This can absolutely be done. The critical thing that's been missing for decades is a big breakthrough. That's why I call it a breakthrough campaign that we're trying to do in the basic energy generation arena. And that's cost effective, and that puts out large amounts of energy and power that can be used for these purposes.